Good morning. Thank you all for joining us here today. I want to thank our City Attorney, Zach Klein, our Chief of Police, Chief Bryant, for joining us today and working so hard on the announcement that we'll be sharing with you this morning. The 18 months has been an unprecedented time of upheaval, disruption on so many fronts. Our healthcare system, our economy, and how we police in our community. On the last point, City Attorney Klein and I had many conversations over the last year or so about if it made sense to invite the U.S. Department of Justice to review police practices in Columbus. In just a relatively short time, we've made meaningful and lasting reforms in how we police in Columbus. We've made changes to our use of force policy, implemented independent investigations into deadly use of force, established the Civilian Police Review Board and Inspector General for the Division of Police. We've added new immersive community-based training for our recruits, enhanced our body-worn camera program, and negotiated historic changes to the FOP contract that will benefit the public and our officers. As you all know, in April, we invited the DOJ to conduct a review of the Columbus Division of Police. I am happy to announce that they have accepted the invitation. This is the first time in our city's history that the DOJ has been invited to review CPD, and for the first time that they've come in under the Community-Oriented Policing Services arm. Community-Oriented Policing Services, or COPS, is the federal component of the DOJ responsible for advancing community policing nationwide. The COPS office has decades of experience providing the resources needed to reduce crime and build trust between law enforcement and communities. In a few moments, Chief Bryant will explain what areas she has asked the DOJ to investigate more thoroughly. I want to emphasize, this is not about one particular officer, policy, or incident. Rather, this is about reforming the entire institution of policing in Columbus. We look forward to the DOJ's involvement in that continued process. Now, I'll turn things over to our Chief of Police, Elaine Bryant.
Good morning. This is a good day for the Columbus Division of Police. That's because it's a day of opportunity. Opportunity for us to grow, build, and improve. My time here has been incredibly busy, and it's been brief. I've had the chance to speak with, and more importantly, listen to many outstanding officers and our citizens. They're passionate, dedicated, our community leaders. Each of these conversations, along with my own observations and experience here, has helped me assess areas where we can improve. This decision by the Department of Justice means we will have a partner with deep resources and expertise to help us achieve this. This opens the door to collaboration with experts from across the country. We can benefit from their experience and knowledge to help us improve our policies and the way that we serve this city. They will help us become even stronger, more efficient organization. The Department of Justice will work with us directly. This will be a collaboration. Much work has already been done. We will build on the findings of the Matrix Report and the Community Safety Advisory Commission. The research of Carter Stewart and John Glenn School helped us identify where we have work to do. There has been areas identified where there is room for improvement and for growth. These include use of force, training, de-escalation, recruiting, diversity, bias-based policing, and early warning system for officers in need of support. Our use of technology to help us police better, staffing, and community relations. This review will not be limited to those areas. It will be fluid and offer us the flexibility to adjust as needed. My singular focus in coming to Columbus and taking this position was to service the community and this division. It is what guides every decision I make. This is not something we can do alone. We have to be open to the possibility that we don't have all the answers. We must be ready to accept the feedback of experts and our residents. This is how we put together the best system we can, not just for short-term success, but for sustainable success. I've said it before, but it bears repeating. We must be open to change, but that change has to make sense. It has to be thoughtful and what is best for the community and this division going forward. We ask our officers to constantly train to be better, to strive for the next level of skill and excellence. This is no different. Our work is too important, the stakes are too high for us to ever be satisfied with the status quo. We are committed to working with the DOJ in full partnership and service to the people of Columbus. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to the leadership of the Department of Justice for heeding our call and giving public safety in Columbus the attention it needs right now. As a result of the proactive requests Mayor Ginther and I made earlier this year, this engagement will be a partnership between the City of Columbus, the Columbus Department of Public Safety, the Division of Police Leadership, and the Department of Justice. One that has the potential to bring great improvements to our community's policing practices. The path forward will be a collaborative approach, where the experts at the Department of Justice will advise the Chief and the Division of Police on areas that the Chief identifies as needing the most attention. While we as a city have done a great amount of work to identify areas for change and improvement within the Columbus Division of Police, this partnership with the DOJ will now allow them to do in-depth analysis and review of existing policies, procedures, and trainings. And most importantly, perhaps, bring real solutions and plans for implementation of the changes they identify that are required to be made. To understand what sets this approach apart from what may be happening in cities like Minneapolis, Phoenix, or Louisville, where the DOJ is engaged in litigation in a patterns and practice, here in Columbus, we invited the Justice Department to come to our city, to take a look under the hood, and to see how things really are working here, to work hand in hand with Chief Bryant, who has now been here for a few months, she'll know the exact days, and has an important grasp on the most pressing needs to improve the division. This proactive posture, which is different than a consent decree or formal patterns or practice investigation, does not include litigation at this point. We are enthused about this approach because this type of partnership, this type of team effort has great potential to improve public safety for residents and for officers alike. The resources and expertise of the DOJ will provide ways to support officers and give them the tools to help us all improve public safety in our city. That's our ultimate goal. I view this as an encouraging development in our effort to improve policing. Columbus is the 14th largest city in the United States, and this partnership is an opportunity to set an example of how the DOJ and cities across the country can work together to improve policing. At this point, I'd like to turn it back to Mayor Ginther.
Thank you, City Attorney Klein and Chief Bryant. This is an important day for the future of policing in Columbus. We are making history with this announcement. Our community has been around for almost 210 years, and never before has the city invited or the federal government accepted our invitation to come help us reform policing in Columbus. It is a historic day, and a day that I think will help us continue to move forward in reforming the Division of Police under the leadership of Chief Bryant, building trust and restoring trust between law enforcement and the community, and learn from best practices around the country. We want our Division of Police to be the very best, to serve and protect everyone in this community. And we believe this engagement with the DOJ will help us on our journey to make that vision a reality. Be happy to take a few questions. Yes, Dan?
When will this review begin and how long do you expect it to last?
We don't have necessarily a timeline on how long it will last, but the DOJ has expressed to us it will start immediately. They'll be sharing a press statement and information later today about their engagement, but it'll start immediately.
What exactly does this involvement look like? What does it mean?
Well, today is just the announcement of the partnership. There may be some things that the chief has already articulated. She's asked the DOJ to look at areas of focus for her as chief, and I'd be happy to have her come back and talk about that some more. But many of you have been asking about this repeatedly, and once we had a formal agreement, a partnership in place, we wanted to come and share that news with you, and obviously we'll be sharing more details with you as this partnership becomes more fully developed. But my belief is that the COPS program has done this in other communities around the country, but they try to tailor it to each city and Division of Police specific needs. Chief, do you want to add anything to that? Okay. Yes?
Will this lead to a consent decree here?
I don't think so. I think City Attorney Klein, he may be able to better speak to the differences between that. I know he made some comments and the difference between the two. Ultimately, that decision is up to the Attorney General and the Department of Justice. The Attorney General was not invited into Minneapolis, Louisville, or Phoenix. And ultimately, that's a decision that would be made by the Attorney General and the DOJ. But these are two we asked for either or both, and this is what we've heard from the DOJ at this point. Luann?
I think this is for Chief Bryant. Chief, if you could explain to people, I'm not sure if people are aware of CALEA approval, but Columbus has CALEA. How will this differ? How will this give a different picture than CALEA approval?
So obviously, we're CALEA certified, and that is a great tool for us to be able to assess, monitor, and make sure that we're doing our policies the way that we should be doing them. But this is a different aspect and a different look. We have an opportunity to bring chiefs or people that have had police experience from across the country in 21st century policing and be able to just hone in on some of the things that we can do better in our city. We already talked about some of the things that have already been going down that track through the Matrix report, through some of the other investigations that have been done. So, for example, a management awareness system, being able to bring an early warning detection system to the department so that we can identify officers. And it's not just about discipline, it's about getting them the help that they may need and identifying some of the issues or concerns prior to it getting to a place of no return. So it's really a tool to be able to assist us in being able to make our division even better.
Chief, can you kind of talk about your personal experience in working with the DOJ?
I can. In Detroit, we had a consent decree, which is two totally different paths. But in Detroit, we had a consent decree for 13 years, and that consent decree was very specific to in certain areas of the department where they felt that we absolutely needed some help in getting away from bad practices. So it was an interesting time. I had an opportunity to work with some of the monitors directly, and I will say that they were very open to listening to some of our ideas and what we felt would be best for our city. So while it was very tedious, I will say that, because it was 13 years in the making, we were able to meet all of our expectations and do what we needed to do to come out of that a stronger department.
So I guess having that experience, how do you feel about the DOJ coming in to review your brand new department?
Well, I will tell you, just in the short time that I've been here, I welcome them coming in and looking into our department. I think that there are some areas where they can absolutely assist us in being able to improve. A big one, again, is the technology, looking at some of our training, looking at some of whether or not we are doing the best practices when it comes to bias-based policing. But there are areas that we're doing well in, but we can absolutely improve. So I welcome them coming in, and I look forward to the collaboration.
When the DOJ is coming to other cities, whether it's a consent decree or through this process, it usually costs a lot of money. A lot of these programs, nothing's free in the world. how are we going to pay for this? And this is probably
That's
more for the
gonna
mayor
be,
than you.
yep. I'm gonna-
How are we going to be paying for this? And is the city at this point willing to, whatever the DOJ suggests, pony up the bill for?
The health and safety of the people of Columbus are our top priority, period. And the relationship between the Columbus Division of Police and the community is absolutely critical in order to provide and make sure that everybody is healthy and safe in our city. It will be a top priority. There's a reason we invited them in. We think they can help us become better and make us into that 21st century community policing organization that the chief and I envision. It will remain a top priority, and I will work with City Council to do everything in our power to fully fund whatever best practices and recommendations that can make us better.
When you made the request, you asked for a racial bias review. Is that going to be part of what the DOJ has accepted to come in and do?
City Attorney, you want to talk?
And I will add something to your question, Bethany, is that the actual expertise and guidance from the DOJ is provided for by the DOJ at no expense to the city of Columbus. If, for example, we go with an early warning prevention system, as the chief alluded to, obviously selecting who that is, and that is a cost the city would bear. But the expertise of the DOJ is paid for by the DOJ. It is a partnership that they fund through their COPS offices for cities like Columbus across the United States. So we're not paying the DOJ anything to provide this expertise. As it relates to the question about racial bias, look, the reality is the areas of concern that the chief has already identified will require an in-depth analysis of our policies, our trainings, our procedures, and inherent in any in-depth analysis is a look at the data, is looking at what is under the hood driving certain outcomes, driving certain policies and procedures. So while perhaps that is a question best asked for DOJ, the reality is I don't know how you can't look at the data driving our results and without looking at the policies and, I'm sorry, you can't look at the policies and practices of what we're currently doing without the back end data to support whether the policy needs to be changed.
One for the chief and probably the mayor too. Chief, talk to us, what will you say to your division of police? What will you say to the officers? You may have already sent out a division-wide email, I don't know, but how do you want to talk to them about how this impacts them? And with crime at an all-time high, the officers are working really hard. Do you think that this gives them a negative spin, that they're going to feel downtrodden by this?
Well, my plan is to absolutely be speaking to them as much as possible, and I will be attending more roll calls and talking about it specifically. What I want them to know is that we're committed to them. I want to make sure that they understand that this is not about belittling them, making them feel that they're inadequate. This is about getting necessary tools to be able to assist and help them in doing their job and being the best division that we can be. So my goal is to make sure that the officers, the soldiers, the boots to the ground, are able to continue to do the work as professionally as they can, and they have been. We have some really great officers, but there are policies, procedures, and things that we can look at to enhance and improve and make sure that we're out there doing the things that we need to do, not only for the benefit of the division, but for the benefit of the community as well. So that's equally important. And some of those things are not about the officers per se, but some of it is more about policy management, being able to address some of the issues, paper flow, making sure that we have the necessary resources to do the things that we can. So I don't want the officers to get bogged down in the specific details. Continue to maintain your professionalism, do the job that you were tasked to do, engage in the community, and if you're doing the right things, we have your back. Like I always say, 100%. So I don't want them to be concerned about that. Let us worry about the things that we need to worry about to make sure that we have the things in place for them to be able to do their job appropriately.
The only thing I would add to the chief's comments, I actually am a big believer. I've been talking to a number of officers who have been really inspired by the chief's leadership, her accessibility, getting around to roll calls, the change and reform that she is leading within the Division of Police. Many officers are very excited about her vision and leadership, and I would argue maybe the opposite of what you suggested. Safety reform oversight and transparency can actually make us all safer. Because as we enhance and restore trust between the community and the police, there's going to be more information sharing. There's going to be more cooperation and collaboration. There's going to be more willingness to share information to get the most violent criminals off the street, that we know there's a small number of folks committing the overwhelming majority of violent crimes in this city. And we'll open up those channels and relationships as we reform and change the Division of Police, and then trust and accountability go up in the community with law enforcement. I think it will make us all safer. We can do both. We can support our officers and change and reform the Division of Police at the same time, and that's exactly what we intend to do. Go ahead.
Kind of shifting gears a little bit, we've got that Buckeye game coming up on Saturday.
Are you going to the game? You've asked me like 6 questions
I
about
know.
this game.
Well, yesterday was COVID.
You're bummed. You must have a bet on this game, sir.
I told you. So we talked COVID yesterday, but today's topic is safety at the game. I'm understanding that only about a third of CPD officers have signed up for the special duty slots. So talk about safety down there, especially as crime is spiking down in the short north and the campus area.
Well, I'll let the chief speak to the specifics. I know she's been working very close with the Ohio State Chief of Police and President Johnson in preparation for this, in addition to other safety work and partnerships that we're doing in and around the campus area. So I'll let her speak to that, Luann. Chief?
Yes, we're concerned, obviously. We want to make sure that we create an environment that's safe for all people that are coming to this game. But what we did is, we know that we have a shortage of officers that signed up. We're going to ensure that we have as many people as we can to be able to assist with that endeavor. But we also ask that Ohio State reach out. So there are other agencies that are also in play in regards to making sure that it's safe. So we're working on that. We're trying to figure out how we're going to be able to make sure that in the future that the games are staffed properly. Did I answer your question?
I'm wondering what CPD is going to do to control the crowds, given the fact some of the changes in the policies recently to avoid a situation like what happened at Chit Fest a couple of months ago.
We're going to do our job. So I will tell you that that the policy is specific to certain things. It doesn't prevent us from being able to do our job. So the officers will maintain professionalism. They will do the things that they need to do to ensure that that crowd is maintained and doesn't get out of control. And so, I mean, that's all I can tell you. It's not going to, my officers are not afraid, or they're not hindered in their ability to be able to police as they need to.
The students take to the streets,
Take to the streets to do.
inform a crowd in the middle of the streets. What will CPD do to control that crowd?
They will ensure the safety of the students as well as the motorists that are on the road. We're not going to engage or do anything that's going to cause any disruption.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Dan, anything else? I'm good, thank you. Okay, thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor, you go.